The next movie will rightly be on many Halloween lists, since it ticks so many boxes of what you want from a classic 1980s horror movie. Sex, scares, blood and gore, memorable characters. One of my absolute favourites, John Landis's An American Werewolf in London. David and Jack are backpacking through the north of England when they stop at a pub. After the original tension is broken, banter and laughter are shared. Jack pushes for an explanation for the pentangle on the wall. Time to leave, but not before some ominous warnings. Not heeding the warnings, they are attacked. Jack is brutally killed. David suffers some minor wounds. When he wakes at a hospital in London, the incredible details are presented. David appeals, but is denied. Feeling alone, and after a series of terrifying dreams, vulnerable. He's befriended by Nurse Alex, who takes pity on him, which starts helping him return to reality. Enter Jack.
Now, I'm really sorry to be upsetting you, but I have to warn you.
Warn me?
We were attacked by a werewolf.
I'm not listening to this.
On the moors. We were attacked by a lycanthrope. A werewolf. I was murdered. An unnatural death. And now I walk the earth in limbo until the werewolf's curse is lifted.
Shut up.
The glory days of special makeup. For me, this is the peak of the werewolf movie. David Norton heads the cast, with Griffin Dunne as Jack. Plenty of familiar faces are spread around, and of course you have to be a certain age to recognize a lot of them. Jenny Agutter, John Woodvine, Brian Glover, Rick Mayall. Whether you know him by name, the movies of John Landis was required watching in the 1980s if you were a kid or a teenager, or even an adult at the time. The Blues Brothers, American Werewolf, Trading Places, Thriller, Spies Like Us, Clue, The Three Amigos, Coming to America. This guy nailed cult, horror, and comedy. There is one blip, and I'm not touching that with a 20-foot barge pole. Apart from Thriller, this is the oldest horror memory I have. It remains one of the scariest movies. I was 4 or 5 when I saw it from a television recording. I remember it because most of the language was censored, but nothing else. As much as it made an impact on my young life, I was fascinated. I wanted to know how they did it. And I, as well as many others, had gotten an inside look into the making of Michael Jackson's Thriller. Same director, same guy, same crew. They had become legends.
Foam latex appliances glued on top of the bladders, then the hair pieces go on, and we paint it with a special makeup. It's called rubber mask grease paint.
Rick, I'm real pleased with this. He looks wonderful.
The transformation sequence, as famous as the chestburster scene from Alien and Reagan's head spinning in The Exorcist. People have picked their sides on which did it better, Rick Baker or The Howling and Rob Bottin. Both are groundbreaking, but I agree with so many that Werewolf was more clinical. To me, it's more realistic. Every hair, every stretch of the skin, every reconfiguration of bone. You can feel David's pain. I've referenced these two before. Like Alien and Jaws, there aren't many shots of the beastie. Sound plays a big part in the tension and anticipation of a shot that feeds into the imagination.
Hello? Is there someone there? I can assure you that this is not in the least bit amusing. I shall report this.
I had heard that Rick Baker had hired a bunch of people who had little to no prior experience with special makeup, and they ended up with an Oscar. Amongst them was Steve Johnson, who did Ghostbusters and Fright Night. To have been part of that, what a great learning experience. Now, I've watched my fair share of movies with zombies in. Jack is one that is unique. When we see him in the hospital, when we see him fresh, it's surprising since 3 weeks have passed since the attack. And every time we see him within the following days, he's in a deeper state of decomposition. How is this possible? Did his decomposition start as soon as David woke up? I guess we'll never know. There isn't a lot of score in this movie. About 7 minutes, which is short for a horror movie. But what Elmer Bernstein did to provide was more than enough to enhance tension. Blue Moon, 3 different versions. The haunting opening version sets the scene, for which, for me personally, gets the bumpy ride going before we've even met David and Jack.
You saw me standing alone.
The second version, starting in the hospital as the camera pans towards the window to capture the full moon to a tracking shot of David reading.
You saw me standing alone. Jesus Christ! Without a dream.
The tone of this version is very different. My brain is suggesting that it has a slight porno tone. Take that as you will. It's sung in a way that's very nonchalant. And then we end with a doo-wop. David Norton didn't do anything nearly as big afterwards, which is a shame. But with this one movie, he's remembered as one of the most sympathetic characters in modern day horror. Griffin Dunne starred in Scorsese's After Hours and directed the cult classic Practical Magic. One of the things I've wanted to know for years is how the fuck did Rick Mayall get a part in this? This movie came out over a year before Rick became a star in the classic sitcom The Young Ones. People were pointing to an article in The Guardian talking to Landis about the making of Werewolf, but I couldn't find it. It might be an audio interview, I just don't know. But I did find a repost of another article on jackedinmovies.com. Landis has seen Rick and his comedy partner Aid Edmondson at the Comedy Store in London, where they were performing as 20th Century Coyote, and liked them so much that he offered them a part. This is a quote from the article. "I don't think they believed me, because Aid didn't turn up, but Rick did. He was right. I didn't actually have a part for him, but I loved his face, so we sat him down in the Slaughtered Lamb pub for the opening scene, and his presence really helps to establish the mood in the movie. You look at Rick in that scene compared to what was to follow. Rick was a natural when it came to comedy. He was loud. He was obnoxious.
Enter the man who has no underwear. Ask me why. Why do you have no underwear, Lord Flash? Because the pants haven't been built yet that'll take the job on.
He was energy personified.
Flash by name, Flash by nature. Hooray!
To see him in such, and I hesitate to use such a word, almost stoic or restraint manner, it's a testament to his talent. It's been 10 years since he left us. His legacy, you will never find another like him. Over 10 years ago, I was a fan editor, working on an expansion set for this soundtrack. I came across a recording of a podcast by some guy in Rome interviewing John Landis about his career. And Landis gave a whole pitch to his Werewolf sequel. He wrote a script and he sold it to the studio. And like Werewolf, they didn't like it. And that was that. Even though Werewolf made a shitload of money, the studio didn't like it, despite its returns. What about the 1-star IMDb audience? It makes you wonder if they were watching the same movie. Could have been worse. They could have used sock puppets. What can be said about American Werewolf in London? First of all, the actors couldn't do what their name implies. What? There would be far more emotion if they were cardboard stick figures with speech bubbles. Ugh. Normally, while I'm watching a movie, I will do a play-by-play commentary. Normally, this annoys others. However, while we watched this movie, it was seemingly encouraged, especially when he turns into... Oh gosh, my head, it hurts so much. I'll rip my shirt off. Yes, that'll stop it from hurting. Wait, it didn't work. Maybe if I take off my pants neatly and carefully. Honestly, this movie's plot could not be seen if it was right in front of you. It is non-existent. The movie ends abruptly and wasn't soon enough. I was honestly startled to find out it was not only made into a collector's edition, but it had a sequel and the special features. Wow, bloopers that aren't that funny and don't have audio. A 15-minute piece about the actor's hand being cast, which was dreadful yet somehow more interesting than the film itself. Do not rent it. Nothing is worth the torture. You fucking twat. Very poor, boring, and overrated movie. Makeup, acting, direction, story, everything about this movie is pure nonsense and rubbish. One even gave a good review, but still marked it as 1 star. This is a great handmade movie. I use that word specifically because in the decade where CGI went mainstream, there is no CGI here. As the time has passed, American Werewolf is remembered fondly by the horror fans and has made many lists and polls. It stands high, if not higher, than the computer-generated scares that dominate the present generation.